Dearly beloved, this started out as a much happier video, but unfortunately today we're here to mourn the loss of the silver bullet, or at least this motherboard that I was running into the ground inside of it. Looks like I am back to being a full AMD shop, so to speak. My one and only Intel system, at least not counting the tablet, which runs off an Intel Atom, my one and only Intel desktop is done for. So basically, I went to fire this thing back up, and it wouldn't start up. No power in the motherboard, no response. I noticed the power supply was turned off, but even when I turned the power supply back on, turned it back on, no response. I've verified that the power supply is still delivering power, and I even verified that the power button isn't the problem by jumping the power button's leads on the motherboard with a paper clip to try and get the system to start that way. I've also tried plugging in another power supply from another system that can support this this type of thing, and nothing is happening. So the motherboard's not getting any power, so it's basically done for at this point. Which means I'm back to being an all AMD shop. All of my working computers are AMDs. Tuxedo runs off of the Phenom 1090T. I still have my 2005 system, which runs off of an Athlon 64. And as for the silver bullet, well, yeah. So, this was my very first Gigabyte motherboard, and it was Tuxedo's original hardware back when I built it in the end of 2007. I used this motherboard for 3 years, just about 3 years or so. Late 2010, I built the current version of Tuxedo that I now have today. And now, it's over. So, dead, and dead. Totally dead, unless somebody has some wild ideas on what I could do to this motherboard to get it to come back to life. But it had a good run, nearly 10 years, and I'm not very fond of Gigabyte hardware, so I'm not really all that annoyed that this board gave up the ghost like it did. Stock cooler, yeah, laugh it up. I bet that still works too. So as far as the silver bullet is concerned, I have a couple of options here. I could put the single core back in. I could put my single core Athlon 64 from 2005 back in, and I could run that system into the ground until that motherboard dies, which if it still works, it outlasted this one. Or I could try out one of those Kabini systems where the motherboard and the processor are less than $100. I could probably get a Kabini Super Combo, get a PCI slot so I can still have access to the sound card and things like that, but I'm short on Windows licenses. I can't go back to Windows XP because Windows XP was 32-bit only. So this also essentially kills the license for the Windows 10 Technical Preview, and I was curious if the Win 10 Tech Preview would upgrade to a full license because you tested it if you remained a Windows Insider. I've heard a few things about that, but I guess we're not going to be able to see that now because the hardware hash on Windows installs is usually tied to the motherboard. So I'm thinking Kabini system, maybe put Linux on it, try Play Linux or something like that, but the role of the silver bullet, because it is a light aluminum case, the role of the silver bullet is to be a somewhat mobile gaming desktop. So if I went over to the folks' place and brought this along as a console killer PC, I would basically this would be, well, yeah, basically that's what it would be, as a console killer. Something where it's light and mobile and I can easily take it with me and stuff like that. So it's really a question of what to do at this point. Could put a Kabini in here and see what I can get out of that by pairing it up with this Radeon 6800 series graphics card. I also want to eventually get a Maxwell graphics card from Monolith, so this would eventually get upgraded to a GTX 760 anyways. But the Kabini is pretty interesting because it has a 25-watt TDP. So this is a desktop processor at the low end that's gunning for the Intel Atom, so to speak. It's a desktop processor at the low end that has power usage, at least on the processor end, on par with a laptop. So it might help with a power efficient system or something like that, or it could be useful in the two computer setup that I've been thinking of doing. I could also deconstruct the crap top and try to mount the crap top's motherboard in here and then wire up the jacks So I would have a Athlon 2 in here because the display's dying on that laptop, and I'm really struggling to find ideas on what to do, but there's limited slots for drives and things like that. So I'm not so sure that trying to make a laptop hardware powered desktop is a good idea at this point. But either way, for now at least, the Silver Bullet is dead. Don't know what I'm going to put in here or what I'm going to do as far as Windows licenses are concerned, but I do eventually want to have this thing back in use as a portable light gaming PC, but I don't know. Any ideas? Leave a comment. I may just, well, no, actually I wanted to rebuild Piano for the 2005 system to, to use that up and run that system into the ground and maybe put Linux on it. So, quite a bit of a bind if I do say so myself. And 2015 is not a good year for this to be happening because I've had surprise expenses and other crap tying up my money all over the place. So, yeah. Well, if you folks have any ideas on how to proceed, let me know. I'm thinking Kabini at this point, just to see what those things can do. See what I can squeeze out of them. I seem to have this thing for taking piece of junk computers and seeing what I can do with them these days. But, anywho, till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by, and rest in peace, my one and only Intel motherboard.